moving on and getting over, that's the trouble these days. I try to get you off my mind, but it seems you always stay. If I could maybe turn back time, baby, would it change your mind? But either way,
what's up, fam? This is Scott Smith. Welcome back to the Time is Right podcast. It's season 2, baby. Welcome to this episode as we go back in time to February 7th, 2023. It's when we hosted our first ever Creatives concert, co-bill. It all went down at a place called the Story Factory Philly. And to break down this whole shenanigan, we have a few guests in the room for today's podcast episode. First up, Mr. Jarrett, Top My Moses.
Hey, yo.
Welcome back, Jarrett Moses.
First time in season 2. Let's go.
Hey, Millie Rock. It's going to be amazing. We also got Miss Emily Phillips back on the pod. How you doing, Em?
I'm great. So happy to be here.
It's always a pleasure to have you. And of course, the legend that this whole episode centers around. First timer on the podcast, but certainly not her last. Hopefully, she will let us do this again. Leah Wrenne, a.k.a. Ashley Murray, is here.
Hello. Hi. Greetings. Salutations.
Salutations. We are super excited that you would be willing to come on The Time is Right with us. And yeah, it's going to be a great episode. Thank you for being here. We will refer to you as Leah Wrenne, your artist name. But can you just give a little bit of an intro of yourself as a first-time guest? Who are you? What you do? Explain your artist name, because I think that's a huge part of who you are, and how you got connected to write.
Okay. I will say my biological name is Ashley Wrenne, and that is a very common name, and so I could not use that. Thank you, Mom. So I was trying to figure out what the stage name should be. And so originally it was Wren, which was short for Renee, but also Wren is a small brown songbird. And so I related to that. And then also with, I think it's Matthew 6:26, where God says to look at the birds, how much more will he care for you and provide for you if he provides for the birds. So yeah, and then Leah came later because the name Wren was taken. So Leah means meadow, and so it's kind of just a meadow of provision for the birds.
So good.
Literally West Philadelphia, born and raised. I grew up loving music, and I always wanted to do music, but I preferred songwriting. I've been songwriting since I was a kid. And so, yeah, I was I want to do that eventually. So I think I started taking it more seriously in high school and after college. And after college was when I started doing open mics, and I met Scott at an event. Was it the Lyrical Cafe?
It might have been Lyrical Cafe.
Yeah. I think that was one.
And then you started coming to Creatives Philly events.
Yeah.
And Leah was one of our most consistent open mic performers. And
I think
most
she still
reluctant.
I think she still has some of the most performances on the open mic.
Yeah, we were trying to figure this out.
Overall.
Rochelle.
We did that a couple weeks ago.
Greg
Tried to figure it
Snow.
out.
Just kidding. Greg hasn't been around that long. But Leah Wrenne.
He's done
yes.
enough.
Leah Wrenne's done
for
a lot.
a while. Everyone Greg came to, he was on.
Greg Snow, the legend.
And then Leah somehow is on even when she doesn't put her name in because someone else puts her name in, and she doesn't know who to fight.
Usually Emily.
It's always me.
Is it always you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you did that to me, Brian?
I
We're about to have
always
a
put your
throwdown.
name. Anytime you
No,
show up, I'm like,
Emily.
Leah, go put your name in. And then I see you walk past it, and I say, Leah Wrenne.
I really thought it was Scott. I was going to fight Scott.
No, I'm pulling your name. I'm not making it up. I pull the name. It's there. I call it out.
Yeah.
You come up on stage and kill it.
You're always ready, so.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. So, yeah, we did a Creatives concert with you on February 7th. But to kind of provide a little bit of context, we launched the Creatives concert series actually during the pandemic on Instagram Live back in 2020. On Instagram, we did people like Joy Ike, Namara, Synovia, Rick Harmony, Abel. We also had Marco on that. And then towards the end of 2020, we wanted to, well, I guess into 2021, we made a switch to YouTube. I guess it was the end of 2020. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the first couple were in 2020.
Yeah, they were right at the end of the year because we did that Creatives Peak open mic virtual on YouTube.
Yes.
And then we had the first Creatives concert on YouTube. And the reason why we switched to YouTube is because even though the Instagram thing was very simple, it didn't sound very good. You know, like the artists you couldn't really tell what they sounded like. Even if they had like the iRig connector, it still didn't sound good comparatively to what it would have with like professional level stuff. And so we switched over to our venue at the time, and we started doing these Creatives concert live streams on YouTube. And our first one was actually with you, Leah, in December of 2020, like right at the end of that first year of the pandemic. And it was cool because we got to create something that is timeless, right? It still exists on our YouTube page. It's phenomenal. You killed it that whole night. But that was like our first real connection with you, not just performing on an open mic, but us saying, hey, we want to book you as an artist to come perform.
Yeah, that was really fun. So I'm glad that I got that opportunity. So thank you.
You killed it. You killed it. We did that one. We did one with a guy by the name of Rockstar JT, who's down south now, but at the time was in Philly. And then we did Peter Collins, who was always a fan favorite at our open mics whenever he showed up. We did a live stream with him. He killed it. We also had I Am Chelsea I Am from New York City. And those were our 4 online YouTube Creatives concerts. And then later on that year, we actually switched to in-person Creatives concerts. So it's kind of like we tried this thing out on Instagram. It went well, but let's make it better. Then we did it on YouTube. It went well. But what would it look like if we did that in person? And so really at the end of 2021, we were doing Matthew Schuler, Namara, Say So, the artist formerly known as Say So because it's John Bolds now.
I was going to say, yeah, John Bolds.
John Bolds. All the flyers say So because at the time he was still
It was Say So then.
It was.
Joy Ike. Say So on Spotify.
We also did Joy Ike, fan favorite. We love her. We talked about her a lot on the Germantown episode of season 1. We also had Peter Collins come back for an in-person Creatives concert. And then we had Doc Hero. Mm-hmm. And then we also did Joel Ansett, Dan DeCristofaro, Quiet Thrill. So in total, when you add all of that up, that's like 18 different Creatives concerts experiences that we've done over the last handful of years. But this year, coming into 2023, we decided, let's try something different. And well, I think a lot of that was mine and Jarrett's conversation. We processed this a lot. Like, how do we make the Creatives concerts more valuable? Even though they were amazing, we wanted to try to figure out how can we make them even better.
Honestly, I remember that conversation. It was, I was like at some event, but it was like a retreat for somebody that I was working. We had finished for the night and I was just killing time. And we had like a 3-hour conversation. I was almost against doing concerts again for a while. Just because like the return of people like coming out and showing up to support like hadn't quite been there. So I was like, maybe we're not quite at the level of being ready to go back to them. But then you suggested the idea of alternating, and I liked that, and we came up with like a good schedule of how to do it for this year.
Yep. Yeah, it was kind of a thing where we just have had such a like shotgun approach to this entire Creatives situation from, like out of nowhere, we're going monthly and sometimes even more than once a month. And we're just going to do 5 open mics in a row. And then we're like, all right, these concerts are going to be great. Let's just do 5 of those in a row. And it's just like, man, there's like no plan. We're just like trying stuff, throwing darts against the wall, seeing what sticks. And I think, coming into after we've done 20 of these, it's like, okay, let's figure out a plan and a vision for 2023 for Creatives Philly that really makes sense.
I feel like part of that was Story Factory asking if we could give them like all our dates for 2023 to them up front, which was a good thing, is a very good thing, because that's something that we needed to do, because that then forced us to actually like get our stuff together, get organized, which is what we needed to make these events better. We need to put the time in earlier on. Right.
And the other thing about the Story Factory, which we'll get to, is it's just huge, right? Yes. It's like 4 or 5 times the size of our old venue.
It's a warehouse. It's literally an old warehouse loading dock.
Yeah, and some of our Creatives concerts at the old venue weren't full Some of them were filled, packed house, awesome. But some actually didn't do as well in terms of the number of attendees. And now we're going to step into a space that's like 4 times the size. How do we do creatives concerts and then not feel like nobody's there? And that's kind of where we came up with this idea. Like, well, okay, what if we do a co-bill concert, which honestly we probably would have done years ago. But shout out to Homestead Collective. They were already doing that, and I didn't want to bite their plan.
That's not like original to them.
I know
People
it's
been
not.
doing that for like decades.
Yeah, I know. I know it's like a thing that a lot of people do, but we're in relationship with Homestead. We hosted one of our creatives at their venue. I didn't just want to bite their concept.
Right,
but when they
right.
shut down as a venue, it kind of was like, oh, we're not taking something from them. Mm-hmm. We're just taking an idea that we can now put our own twist on and spin on. And I called Caitlin about it because I just asked her permission. I was like, hey, are you cool if like we do this? Because you guys aren't doing it anymore. And she was like, yeah, it's a great idea. It's the best way to do shows. And so that was kind of the thought. And then we had a lot of conversation about, how do we leverage the platform of creatives for our Ripe community? This is something me and Emily talk about a lot. Jarrett and I have talked about a lot. Is, creatives is not its own thing. It's a part of the makeup of what Ripe Creatives, the organization, is, but Ripe, the team. Creatives is done by the team of Ripe. And so how do we leverage the platform of creatives to bless the artists in our team? Mm-hmm. And so the thinking was, okay, if we do these co-bill concerts, let's make one of the artists a Ripe artist. Let's get somebody else that could be maybe a little bit more of a draw, and let the Ripe artists benefit from the other artists that we brought in. What did you guys think about doing it that way, from that angle?
I thought it was a better idea because it gave us a chance to actually leverage creatives for the artists, because the whole point is to support our artists. And the only way creatives ever helped anybody was having them on as a feature, which is great. Like, it's great in its own hand, but like we run out of features really fast if we only used Ripe artists, because we do like 3 features an event. Sometimes that's right. We'd run out of Ripe artists in 2 or 3 events.
Right.
But switching over to the creatives concerts makes more sense, because then one, it's just less time that the main artist has to be up there, and it's just better for them. But I also like the fact that the main artist's audience gets to partake of the Ripe artist that we brought on, and we're strategic with the Ripe artist we put up there to make sure that it coincides with that person's music. So if they like the main attraction's music, they'll also like the Ripe artist's music.
Yep, for sure. All of this leads into us designing February 7th as a co-bill with Peter Collins and Leah Wrenne. And we knew we wanted to have Peter back because we'd had Peter as a creatives concert the year before. It was our most well-attended creatives concert out of any that we did. We knew we wanted to have him back. Now, taking him and saying, okay, how do we do a co-bill? Who do we do that with? There was a little bit of a discussion there of who is going to be the co-bill artist with Leah, right, Jarrett?
Yeah, we ran through like ideas of putting a couple different artists up there. I think we had 3 names, and then we quickly narrowed down to 2. And then after a quick debate, went to 1.
Yes. Yeah, we were talking about Rashid and the possibility of like Rashid being a possible good fit with Peter. And I think one of the things you said was like it was almost too on the nose.
Yeah, it was a little redundant just because 2 guys playing acoustic and singing.
With crazy vocals,
Yeah.
And even though they are different, I think it was a good thought. Ashley obviously does a lot of different things, plays keys, and, has...
There's a little more diversity in the acts with Leah up there.
Yep. And so, yeah, we decided to go with Leah Wrenne, which Leah, what did you think whenever we asked you doing a co-bill with Peter Collins? Was that like, cool, that sounds good? Or did it like feel like it meant something more to you?
It was definitely like, why would you ask me? I was like, wow, this is going to be an opportunity for growth. But like, I love Peter's music. So when you said that, I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting for me. But yeah, it was definitely something I wanted to do. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah. I feel like Emily and I have always talked about anytime Leah has sang, and not to say that what you do isn't unique, it is, but we've always addressed like, man, is she not like the female version of Peter Collins? You know, it's not to take away from who you are as Leah Wrenne at all, but as a compliment to your artistry and your gifting and the uniqueness of what you do, Peter's an out-of-this-world alien, and we feel very similarly about you.
We're calling you an alien.
I know Zenobia said the same thing, though. She was like, oh, yeah, you and Peter have, like, such similar styles. I was like, oh, my gosh, that's such a huge compliment.
Very big compliment.
I think, like, your vocal technique with, like, your runs is so similar, but I think that, like, your tone is so different from his. Like, other times when you sing, and I'm just like, it's so good. You have that Lauryn Hill, like moments where I'm just like, oh, so good, such a unique sound. And then you do your crazy, like, Peter Collins runs. It's just like this wonderful, like, modge podge of all these, like, influences in this one person who creates, like, this completely different, like, thing than I've ever heard before. And so, like, seeing you perform and, like, be comfortable was so sweet. But also, like, seeing you and Peter, like, sharing a bill, it was almost like when your phone, like, suggests, like, if you like this, then you'll like this person too. Mm-hmm. And it fits so perfectly. Like,
yeah.
So
it was
good.
like a no-brainer. It was a perfect fit. Not just from the marketing standpoint, and, like, everybody affirmed it too. I think everybody was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. And I think what was really cool was, like, people that have supported you or been, like, a fan of you, I think because they saw you were with Peter, were like, this is a can't miss opportunity. You know, whereas maybe they would have been like, oh yeah, I'll see her again next month because she's always performing. This was kind of like that's such a perfect match. And it's such a great opportunity for you to not open for him, but split a co-bill with him, that it was worth celebrating and worth people coming out. And so many people, supported you through that event, which I thought was really spectacular.
Yes, I'm really grateful.
Yeah, one of the coolest things for me leading up to the show was we talked, with Leah Wrenne about doing, 30-minute set. And you were like, no, I'm not going to do that. 30 minutes, why? And then you agreed to it finally, which your 20-minute sets at other spaces have turned into 10 minutes.
It's impressive how fast she, like, changes her songs into, like, twice the speed. Oh my gosh, Obedience is like a 30-second song when she's live.
Oh my god.
There's a lot of inside jokes and sarcasm happening right now. but on a number of gigs, Leah Wrenne has been given 15 minutes, 20-minute sets, and she will take half of that time and then try to run off stage. At one point, I actually remember she got all the way off stage, and then I went on stage and made her come back to do more music because it was so short.
It was like 7 minutes.
You did like a fake encore. You're like, shouldn't we ever come back and do a new one? Yeah!
Because she would just cheat the whole system. I'm like, you did not get driven out here 3.5 hours to perform, and then you're going to do 7 minutes. Like, what are you doing?
The only time you get away
is whenever I'm there and that happens, you do my favorite song of yours, which is like your a cappella song. And
because I love
like,
you, Emily.
Shout out to Emily bringing out the a cappella joints. But yeah, I remember asking you for 30, thinking we might get 20. And then I talked to Sylvia, Peter Collins' manager. Shout out to Sylvia Porsche. She's amazing. One of the coolest people ever. And she kind of said, how long is Leah playing? I said 30 minutes. She said, okay, then Peter's doing 30. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, we need Peter to do, 45, 50-minute set per usual. And she was like, no, it's a co-bill. She is not opening for him. They're splitting the bill. If she's doing 30 minutes, he's doing 30 minutes.
That's so good.
And I was like, all right, so I should go talk to her about doing 40? She said, yes, you should.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. So I went back, talked to Leah, and I was like, hey, you got to do 40 now. And she was like, what?
I don't know if y'all seen the TikTok where it was like, get somebody else to do it. That's what it was. It was very much giving like, no.
I was like, if you only do 30, we only get 30 of Peter. So do you want the people to miss out on an extra 10, 15 minutes of Peter Collins? Like, this is your choice. The crazy thing is she agrees to do 40. And for the first time in the history of the world, y'all,
this was history.
Leah Wrenne went overtime.
It was wild.
I never in a million years expected you to go. You almost hit an hour. It was amazing.
Yep.
on stage, nonstop.
Also, like, so comfortable with it, too. You weren't like, oh, I'm going to speak. No. It was like, taking my time. This is my time.
You talked with the audience a lot.
Explained your songs.
Your little opening of, like, I feel like Cinderella, like, as it goes down to midnight or whatever. I was like, that's so cute. That's so perfect. What a great icebreaker.
I was like, everybody's so nice. They're laughing at my jokes. That's so cool.
So good. It was so good. Let's get into the actual night of the event, as we're alluding to her going overtime and all that kind of stuff. Night of the event, we have Top Mop Productions, Savage Consultations Media doing video stuff. DJ Angie is DJing. We got the Pudding Guy and Great Awakenings Cafe there as vendors. And, before we even get into your set, Emily and I did something for the first time at a Creatives where you interviewed me on stage. And I think you did a great job, Emily.
I think I said all the wrong things.
That might be true.
But it was the first time, and we'll do it again. It'll be great. I think bridging the gap of Ripe, the community, and Ripe Creatives, the nonprofit, and Creatives Philly, like having all of those things make sense to the people who were there that night, I think was super important for people to understand like what we get to do.
Yep.
And like the purpose of, we're not just like throwing concerts and open mics to like entertain. Like there's so much purpose and like drive behind what we do, and I thought it was really special to be able to share that.
Yeah, we asked like how many people in here have any idea, have no idea what Ripe is, and almost everybody's hand went up. And it's like, all right, this is why we're doing this, because Creatives Philly in a lot of ways is seen as its own thing, but it's so much connected to the entire Ripe community, and it's only possible because of Ripe Creatives as an organization existing and the support that we receive. It's not a standalone thing; it's a part of a whole of what Ripe Creatives is doing in the city. And I think it was important to get to share that. So I was really excited that we did that well. And then and it also killed some time to give you a little bit of breathing room before you had to go up in front of all them people.
I wasn't ready. I literally I was still wrapping my hair right as y'all were doing the interview.
Yeah,
Darlene was like, "Yeah, you have like 5 minutes."
You have 3 minutes. You have 1 minute.
That's so great.
And then we made the announcement, and you come out on stage, and as Emily alluded to, Cinderella bars. But talk about your set. It wasn't just you by yourself the whole set. You had some other people accompany you and all that kind of stuff. So can you just share about that?
Yes, I'm so grateful. My friend Marcus played guitar for a couple of songs because guitar is a struggle for me. So that was helpful. And then even just being there, like as my friend, like every time he got on stage, he was like, "Breathe," and I was like, "Oh my God, thank you."
I forgot to do that.
I was like, "Yes, that's definitely like supposed to be happening right now for me to be alive." But yeah, so yeah, that was great. And then Nyla, my new adopted niece, because she asked me to be her aunt.
You don't want to know how many people were like, "Yeah, that's her niece, right?" I'm like, "It's not actually her niece." They're like, "No, like it's actually her niece." I was like, "No, it's not."
Listen, you don't have to be related to be someone's aunt and niece. I have a niece that's not my niece, but my niece.
Absolutely.
Like,
No, they thought it was like her sibling's child. That's where the confusion was.
I was like, no, I definitely have
It's
5
usually what a
siblings, but
niece
none of them
is,
have daughters. So no.
I'm going to be honest. I thought it was her niece until right now.
Wait, really?
Yeah, for sure.
I told you it was
100%.
Nikki and Greg's daughter.
I get it now. I get it now.
Nikki's not my
Scott's
biological
just staring at the
sister.
floor,
I know.
questioning everything.
No, but I get it now.
when you
But
use the
I'm
word
saying-
niece, you just expect, they're family. Like,
Yeah.
the end.
But
Anyway.
Nyla is 12 years old.
Yes, she is.
And you guys have been doing some like different things together on social media, and you've been bringing her around. And I guess you guys had a conversation about like she didn't know where she could sing or something like that.
Yeah.
What was that about?
Yeah. So we were taking an Uber home from church, and she was like talking about how she never really gets opportunities to sing. So I was like, "Girl, I'm singing on the 7th. You want to sing on the 7th?" Like, and so she was like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So we went to her house that day, and we started writing the song that we sang on Tuesday.
So stinking good.
How far out was that from the show?
I think that was in December.
Okay. So
like a month and a half out.
Month and a half-ish.
You know, it's so good. That moment was, I mean, your entire set, I don't know how this could be overstated. You killed it. Yeah. And I think like all of us would agree as viewers of her set that was the most confident and comfortable we've ever seen you.
Having seen you play in multiple locations with multiple different types of audiences and settings, like that was your best. And I'm not saying this to discount your playing, but when the fact that you had other people up there, I think is what helped you do better. Even though you had times up there by yourself, other people being up there just calmed you a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you found something unique there.
I was talking to Eva like during your set, during your song with Nyla, and she like was weeping in the back, like fully in tears, sitting at the check-in table. She was like, Jesus would be so pleased at this right now. Like not would be. Jesus is so pleased with this right now because this is discipleship. This is like taking someone under your wing and like bringing them in and doing life with them, giving them opportunities and like teaching them well. And it's so true because like there's people perform all the time. Famous people perform all the time. And like, it's just them. But like the fact that not only was this like a special thing for you because like it's your co-bill, like you're on this like amazing thing with Peter Collins, like kind of a big deal guy. And like your thought was, oh, let me bring Nyla into this. So beautiful. Like that just shows your heart so much. And so it just made that moment even more like impactful and wonderful. And not to mention she was stupid talented. I was like, girl, I can't even do those runs. What the heck?
That's what I said. I said we had to put runs in it because I was like, her runs are insane.
Nasty.
So good.
Harmonizing the runs just made me mad.
Yeah, I was like, what the heck is happening right now? But you're right, Em. I mean, that was like the embodiment of our entire team's culture on display, which is why you've been such a great fit for us. Like, you carry everything that we talk about, and you live it. And I think Nyla is a perfect example of that, even with, like, your social media stuff, you know? And I know you get strength from it, too. Like, it's not just about what you can give to her. You benefit from the space and being with her and having accountability with her. And like Jarrett said, I think it's part of the comfortability of how well you did that night was that you knew it wasn't just on you. You know, you had the support of Marcus on stage sometimes, and you knew Nyla was coming up at the end, and you guys were going to get to have that moment together, and it was a moment. Mm-hmm. People were freaking out. All the videos of that night, like people are screaming when you guys hit that first harmony together, because it was so like, whoa, this is different. Mm-hmm. So good.
And I could even see like in one video, like I could tell like she was smiling like when she was singing her part, and everybody like started reacting. I was like, yes, I love this. Yeah,
you could feel like the warmth in her heart as it was happening, and then hearing her parents calling out her name. Man, it was so good. And you're like, man, she's 12 years old.
Hearing her parents be the loudest people in the room made me happy.
Yeah. It was special. It was special.
Honestly, one of my favorite parts of the night was like at the end when like after Peter's set, like when there was a line of people waiting to talk to you and to meet you and to hug you and to share like the impact that your music and your set had on them that night. Like I think like we talked about how ripe artists get put on as a feature in the open mics, and it's like a moment where they're able to like share something and move on. And sometimes like people respond to that and come up to them and like encourage them, but sometimes that doesn't happen. But this night, like I think was the first time that I got to see someone that like I love and think the world of, like get that recognition of like you were incredibly talented and like your heart is so beautiful, and like what you did in your set, like every aspect of it, people saw like how wonderful you are, and they had the time and like the space to come up to you and to really like encourage you. And it was so sweet. I made sure Joe went and like started taking pictures over there, because I was like, these are moments that need to be remembered, because like this is what like artists need. They need that encouragement, that like support, and knowing that what they're creating is like important and touching people, and that they should continue to do it because it matters.
So good.
I actually feel more comfortable talking to people afterwards than like during the set. But like that night, like it was the same for me. It was like a continuation. It didn't really feel any different, which was nice.
Yeah. Speaking of like stuff like that, what other things stuck out to you about that night for you? Because we could tell this is different. And it's not to say you're not always amazing. You are. I mean, everybody in Ripe would agree. Like, you're a cheat code. You have the wildest gift set, and God has blessed you so tremendously. But something we're always like trying to build up is your confidence, for you to see yourself the way that we see you, and more importantly, the way God sees you, and your gift, especially because it is so out of this world. But with that, you got this like thorn in the side sometimes with insecurity. And I feel like that night, whether it was just the grace of God, the Spirit of God, or just like because of the room and your confidence and preparation, I don't know what it was, but it felt different. And you commanded the room in a way that I've never seen you command a room before. Like it was your show, What do you feel like was part of that for you, or do you just feel like it was God doing it, and now you feel like because of that? I don't know. Just I would love for you to share about that.
It was definitely God, but something specific was Emily. When I had first joined Ripe, and we had the meeting, she was talking about the Lauryn Hill album, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I've never listened to the whole thing live, and like literally days before the show, I was like just listening to that album on repeat only. And it was just like, this is incredible. Like she's insanely talented, and yet like she even said like her voice wasn't at its best because like she was so tired from like touring and everything, and like she had to drink tea on stage and everything. But like I was like, I was sick the week before the show, so I was like, oh my gosh, this is so relatable. But yeah, so I just feel like that was definitely helpful. And even just knowing that like my friends were like praying for me, and that I could see my friends there. Like my brother like sent me a video, and I was like, oh, I see my friends. I was like, why would I say that on stage? But yeah, I was just so excited and just so happy to be there and just to see everyone.
I forgot the show almost didn't happen with her because she got sick. We were worried that it wasn't going to happen.
Absolutely. You had something. You had something in your veins, but by the grace of God, there is a healing balm in Bethlehem.
There's a healing.
Ooh. We could just sit here on that front for a minute.
Stay right.
And it's not to bypass completely what happened the rest of the show. Peter Collins.
Amazing.
If you don't know Peter Collins, please go look him up. He's world class. Literally one of the best singers in the world. People who are some of the best singers in the world do videos reacting to Peter Collins singing because he's that good. So if you haven't been exposed to his music, amazing songwriter, amazing vocals, amazing guy. We've been blessed to be connected with him. And if he was here, we would talk all about his set too. But it was amazing. He's great. He's always great. And you can find content of him even on our YouTube page, Ripe Creatives, if you're looking to check out some of his stuff. But you can also find it on Spotify. Just like final things, like general outcomes, from the event. What did you feel like you took away from this? Especially you, Lee. I mean, we had a lot of takeaways as a team, but for you, like, what were some of the takeaways from the event?
I think just having that experience made me feel like, oh, this is possible. Like, I can do this. And, like, because my goal was always just to be a songwriter for other people. So I was like, I'm just, like, performing just until I get the opportunity to songwrite for people. But, yeah, performing was actually fun.
I mean, that is the first time I've ever heard you say that was that night that you really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Even the last song, like, I was just like, this is just so fun. Like, everyone's singing with me, and it was great.
I think like my favorite part of like Lauryn Hill's live album is like the imperfections, like how authentically like in the moment she is, and like when she messes up she just like goes back in and she doesn't cut it out. It's not like this like refined album, and other stuff of hers is that refined stuff, but this was like specifically so real, and it's my favorite stuff of hers. Like there's so much power and like sweetness in that, and I think like while you were performing like that, you being authentically yourself and like having moments where you're talking to them and it's like, oh yeah, that's Ashley talking. Like she's like being silly, goofy, like she's comfortable and good, like was just sweet to see. Like I feel like that was the first time that people got to see like you as a person who creates these amazing things and like get to know you, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, even the transition stuff, because I think about that stuff as like an MC host of events and curating. That was the best I've ever seen you do that too. You leaned into the performance aspect of the full set in a way that I hadn't seen you do before. And you stole the show. Like
Yeah.
Peter Collins is amazing. He is literally a world-class artist. But there's nobody that would think leaving that room that you didn't deserve to be on the same stage as him.
Oh yeah.
No one is thinking like, oh, that was really cool. She got to open for that really great. No, like you two are artists at very different parts of your career, but in terms of your gift set and what God's given you to steward, I think there's a lot of similarities. Mm-hmm. Like when you're saying, I think I could do this. Yes. We've been saying this for as long as we've known you. You can do this.
We know you can do this.
Any other takeaways for you, just like from the night itself?
I just want to say thank you again to everybody who's like encouraged me and supported me. Yeah, I was just so grateful and so like overwhelmed. It took like days to process. But yeah, I'm just, so happy. Yeah.
It was an honor to have you. And we got a lot of great things planned for Creatives Philly throughout the rest of the year. And so we're super excited for, this getting to be the first thing that we did in 2023 was this co-bill with you and Peter Collins. Whether you realize it or not, the success of that event is going to greatly impact everything else we do this year. And so even just the way you promoted stuff and the way you let your family and friends know, like all that stuff goes so far. And it just felt like this is such a good relationship. And why we are so thankful that we invited you in to be a part of the Ripe community in the way that we did as an artist. And thank you for saying yes as the first lady artist, taking that risk to be like, there's a bunch of dudes and that's intimidating or just off-putting because it's a bunch of dudes. You were willing to take the risk, and say like, I know that they're not just trying to put me in a corner or something like that. Like, I know that they want what's best for me. And I think, Emily, your relationship with Leah, like, was a big part of that as well. And so thank you for advocating for us and advocating for her. And, I'm just excited about what the future holds and where we're headed as a community together.
Girl gang. Woo woo.
Yes, girl gang.
Amen, amen. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's episode. We really, really appreciate you being a part of listening to this podcast, Time is Ripe. And ultimately, most of you who listen to this podcast are people who partner and support Ripe Creatives so that we can do everything that we do, including things like this Creatives Concert Co-Bill with Leah Wrenne and Peter Collins. If you are here and you don't currently partner with us, please jump on our website at ripecreatives.com and click the Give button to consider becoming a monthly or annual partner with us. Any support goes a long way in helping us produce not only this podcast, but all the events that we do as a team. And if you already partner with us, we just want to say thank you. To be honest, this entire podcast is just us trying to say thank you to you because we don't get to do anything we do without your support. And so these episodes are really a dedication to you so that you're hearing about the ways that we're stewarding your generosity. We love you. And we're excited for all that 2023 has to offer. And until next time, stay right.
Letting you go, I sing it out. The world that we built is over now. I'll pick up the scratch. tore down. I built something